This is Robert Merdlanchi, the Mindshare Learning Report and Mindshare Learning Technology. I'm honored to be the chair of the 11th Canadian EdTech Leadership Summit here in the Mindshare Workspace in Air Mills Town Center. We're in a shopping mall. We're redefining the future of work and learning is what we're doing. I'm honored to introduce our next presenter, our spotlight speaker, Katina Papulkas, who is the Canadian Education Strategist at Dell. She's an experienced educator who supports digital transformations across Canada with K-12 school districts and post-secondary institutions. The focus is always on learning, amplified through technology, skilled in technology-enabled learning, education leadership assessment, and personal learning. I'm a proud graduate of the Toronto District School Board, and I'm a big fan of this master educator who is formerly an educator and leader in the Toronto District School Board. With that, thank you for joining me this afternoon, Katina, and I'll pass the baton over to you and stop my share so you can share with us.
Thank you so much. Let me just bring up my presentation. Just want to make sure everyone can see it okay. Does that work for all? Okay, are we up and running?
You're there now.
Okay, awesome. Well, thank you so much, Robert. As I was just saying just before we started, fantastic day today, incredible learning happening, and it's just really exciting to be part of it. Also, thank you so much for including us. As Robert mentioned, my name is Katina. I am the Dell Education Strategist for Canada for both K-12 as well as post-secondary. And in my role, I've really 2 to 3 days a week prior to March. This is how I spent a lot of my time. I would be at a lot of airports, flying from coast to coast across the country, really working with our districts and colleges and university to focus on student-centered learning. And since March, now my travels are more of a virtual level from my home office where I currently am. So you can see this is what it looks like from this perspective. And it's just so important to know that all of us, we've all gone through this incredible shift, and it's just good to know that we're in this boat together. So with that, I just want to take an opportunity to check in with everyone. I know it's a busy day, so just in the chat, if you want to add a quick, in the spirit of this season, just tell me how you're feeling, or if you don't celebrate this, the middle row is for you, whatever works. But we just want to know that as people, we're doing okay, and that's what we always have to check in first about, is just how we're feeling. Okay, so I'm getting some fours. Okay, we're feeling a little bit of fun, and even some number ones, which is fun. Okay, good stuff. Great to hear. So just as mentioned, we are all in this together. Doesn't matter who we are globally and in Canada, we're all on this mountain where some of us are still climbing up, are at the summits, but we're seeing sunshine. There is hope. We know that it's going to get better. Something that I personally do is always check in at the research at CAMH, our Center for Addiction and Mental Health. We still know that there are people struggling. So these are the latest stats. They keep a dashboard and a monthly survey of how people are doing. So just as staff, as students, as leaders, we always should be checking in. How are you? How are things going? Because we know that depression, and if we look at the stats, we're looking at the ages of 18 to 39, the highest rates of depression and anxiety are with our students and in that post-secondary age, as well as our teaching staff, and particularly with women. So it's just something to consider as we go through our days, to always have that compassion and kindness for everyone. And trust me, I am looking forward to 2021 because we know it's been a challenging year, but we can get through it together. So in my travels, what I've seen really in K-12 and post-secondary is the focus upon equity and engagement, and how in looking at those two pillars, we can make it to that third pillar of transformation. And I want to do this talk through the lens of digital literacy, because that is so important to think about in our experience of the last 8 months, what digital literacy means and how we can use that to actually help us transform. So my question to the group is, what does digital literacy mean to you? So take a second and just enter it in the chat what your definition of digital literacy is at this point in time. All ideas are welcome. High technical skills. Mm-hmm. All right, so we'll keep moving on from there, and please feel free to enter into the chat as we go. I know some people are on phones, it makes it a little bit longer to enter in. So digital literacy is more than one thing. It is definitely media literacy, it is website literacy, knowing what's on the screen and what you're consuming. Great stuff in there. Cyber literacy, understanding security and privacy and all the things that go with those very important topics. Data literacy, understanding where your data is, what your data is, and how it's being read, and how it can be used for evidence-informed decision making, as well as for other areas. And then hardware literacy, actually understanding how to use different pieces of hardware. So my next question is, who's responsible for digital literacy? So if we're thinking about our school systems, where does this understanding and learning come from? Enter into the chat if that works. Okay, all educators, we all are, I love it. So I'm just going to start a little bit. On the IT side, we often say the Chief Information Officer because we think, oh, IT is responsible, but it's not often we see a CIO or a CTO go over into the teaching and learning side of the house. Same with our IT managers. Although highly skilled and a lot of digital fluency with a technical side of things, we don't often bridge that divide of teaching and learning in IT. So is it the administrators that should be helping us with a digital literacy? Is it the teachers? They often say, well, we have so much curriculum and content to cover, what can we do? The parents, they are trying their best, as we've seen over the last number of months, and they're hoping the school can help. And oftentimes it's the teacher librarians in our school that are tasked with really doing it for the entire school. And the students have to have some sort of responsibility here. So just a thinking question, how can you be a co-agent for digital literacy? How can we all work together? And so what I'm seeing in the chat is exactly what I want to be talking about, that we are all agents of change for digital literacy. So all of us need to make sure that we're sharing this with our students and our staffs and our leaders, all of us together. And so there are different ways that we can do this. One, and this is what I'm going to be talking about, is embedding digital literacy, all of those literacies throughout everything of our school systems, focusing on being less reactive and more proactive with our digital literacy, making sure that there's equity and representation. And so by having these four all together, working together, embedding it throughout, being an activist and being inclusive can really support this. And in doing this, addressing these four pieces, we'll address equity and engagement and get to transformation. So let's dig in a little bit more on the collective. What does this mean to be all responsible for digital literacy? And I think what we've seen in the past number of months, professional learning is crucial for what we've just gone through. And so oftentimes I really focus in on student-centered learning, making sure that the student experience and student agency is the focus. And when we were in the physical classroom, we know that our educators are at different parts of this journey, and they're in transition all the time as they work towards that student-centered space. It's no different in the online world. So as we shifted into these remote schools and working from and learning from home, a lot of educators for the first time on this type of remote experience went to that teacher-centered space. So we need to support them as they go through that journey again of transitioning from teacher-centered to student-centered in that online world. And so we offer professional learning, but let's think about what that professional learning looks like. According to the research, a short talk like this will increase your awareness of something. It's a one-off, it's one webinar that you go to, but it doesn't impact a change in practice, nor does it impact student learning. If you then do some professional development on a tool of some sort, it can change your practice, but not necessarily impact student learning. Where we really see that impact both student learning and change in practice is where it's daily professional learning. So that can be in form of a PLC, collaborative group. Some of these online groups, we're seeing it on Twitter, we're seeing it in all these social spaces where people are working together to help and to move into that student-centered online space. So as my team throughout Dell, what we did immediately in response to the situation in March was offer a number of webinar sessions to a variety of audiences. So including teaching and learning staff at the leadership level with IT side, even the parent community, just posting to give lots of information, lots of perspective. But now, as we're going through into this next section, we are being really strategic and intentional of, on the left-hand side, you're seeing an image of what we're doing to try and move our educators into that student-centered space, focusing on the learner, but at the same time recognizing we have to have some sort of framework in place to help our educators learn those skills. And so together we have the how-to and the why-to help them in support of all of this. And in doing this, we can really narrow that digital literacy gap that we have within the school and in our systems and even out into the community. And the parents can be part of this as well. So again, if we have that professional learning, it addresses the equity piece, it can increase engagement, which helps us with transformation. Now, in terms of being pervasive, it's really about embedding digital literacy, all of those definitions and even more throughout our entire system. We often have had physical schools or just a number of classrooms sometimes where we had the one key teacher who knew everything. And as you can tell now, we have to move forward and make sure that it's within throughout every office and classroom of our schools, both in the physical sense and in the virtual sense. And it doesn't just stop at the teaching and learning side, because now when our students are at home and they're having, or our educators are at home and they're feeling, oh, we can't use our digital devices for something that's not working, we need to have ways that we can help them become more hardware literate. So a program that I've been rolling out across Canada is called Tech Direct. This is actually for the IT side when they work with Dell computers, but now we've taken those online courses that the IT teams take and we're giving them to students. We're saying, take these courses, there's online courses, 5 or 6 hours of courses, write your test. You will then know how your computer actually works, understand how it functions. And so then you can start to try and see, is this possible for me to take care of my own devices, of the family devices as well? And we've actually been certifying students across the country with this. As you can see, grade 7 student right here is now certified for 2 years. So even think about the experiential opportunity here. A grade 7 student with a 2-year certification of being able to fix devices. It's fantastic and empowering for our students. And so again, if we think about how if we put it through our entire system on the teaching and learning side, as well as the IT side, we are helping equity and engagement and moving towards transformation. Now with digital literacy, we also have to think, instead of reacting to everything, how can we be more proactive and bring in some things that we haven't thought before in digital literacy? So what does it mean to be an activist in the pro sense? Well, I think we've started to see that shift. We talk about digital citizenship, and oftentimes we hear of don't post this and don't do this and don't do that. But now we're seeing that shift towards, hey, let's think. What can you do to be more positive in this space? So we're changing that anti-language to a more pro and positive language. How can we rethink it so we focus on those do's and turn the conversation towards digital responsibility? We can start asking questions. How might we make our communities better and stronger through the use of technology and online learning? How might we engage in respectful online conversation and debate? And we know we have a lot of work to do here. And how might we determine valid information and sources? And this is another area we really have to make sure our students are addressing. So it's ensuring that social media tools are being used in the positive way, being modeled throughout our system. And I am seeing, which is just exciting. And just to share as a model example, here's a tweet from one of the groups that we're working with. They're posting on Twitter, We're talking about our positive norms that are happening in our groups. And this is what we're modeling for our students, for our peers, for our leaders, so they can see the power of positivity around the social media space. And for those who know me, I'm also really big on game-based learning. We know that students often have different ideas of what they should be spending their screen time on. My thinking is embrace it. Really think about how can we engage our students right now, especially when they're struggling, many of them, in terms of their mental health and wellness. So esports has been a huge piece of my work, even in this online space. It's exciting. For those who are new to that space, it's competitive video game play that is coming into education. And this is what it looks like. These are tournaments that are happening prior to March, obviously. But we have teenagers across the country who are making some money playing these video games. We have post-secondary institutions who the students started up their own grassroots team, and they are competing in international events and doing really well. And now we're seeing the colleges and universities recognizing this commitment, this passion, and how they can bring it into education and really legitimize it for our students. With the focus being around global competencies, that communication, collaboration, critical thinking, and problem solving, it is so amazing to see what esports can bring from playing video games. And not only that, with this billion-dollar industry, we're also preparing them for the workplace. All kinds of new roles are coming out into the space that we had never seen before. So from game design to health and wellness as being a video game player, we have TV and radio broadcasts. We're now doing shoutcasting. So many new ways of looking at something that we really weren't too fond of in the past. And now at Dell, what we did during the summer was we created a series to bring everybody from across North America to say, okay, how can we do esports and how can we make it a safe space for students? And so we had all sorts of volunteers who came and talked about the different ways that K-12 and post-secondary could do esports and how it could be successful. We did breakout groups to talk about different elements of it. We did panel discussion, bringing in our students, talking to them and saying, hey, what do you need? What did you love about it? What could we do? And then we gave everybody resources where they could create their own plans, where we could share together. We have a Discord channel. It's my first time on Discord, but now we're networking. We're really bringing people together to try and help them do this. And again, by engaging and focusing on equity, making sure everybody's involved, we can transform. And finally, inclusivity is so important. We know this equity piece has been around for some time. And I'm just going to jump into something that's near and dear to my heart. With my role in esports, I also noticed that there was a lack of female representation. So that's why I went back to my elementary students in grades 4 to 8 to really focus on them. The girls in STEM, the girls in game-based learning. We focus on 3 different areas, such as that girl power, understanding how we can learn from each other, really being authentic in STEM learning and global competencies, and then providing mentorship. So prior to March, this is what some of our clubs look like. And then post, this is what it looks like now. But look at, they're happy, they're engaged. We connect these girls across the country as well as North America, so they have a chance to talk to each other in a safe space. They're just before social media, so we're really working with them to really make it a great experience for them, so that when they do go out on their own, they'll be ready for it. And again, we focus on the global competencies and help them in this area. And not only that, we understand the importance of giving them a visual of seeing themselves in roles, in STEM roles. So the women of Dell, Microsoft, and Intel, and from some of our districts, the women in IT, they're coming out to tell their stories to the girls. They're going in and doing Q&As with the girls to give them these positive role models. And our girls are doing these culminating activities linked to authentic learning of the UN Sustainable Development Goals. And they're even getting a chance to play esports. They're getting a chance to be leaders. They work one-on-one with their mentors, and this is how we have to do it. Asynchronous conversation through Flipgrid. But through all of this, the girls are learning. We're helping them become more digitally literate in so many ways. So if we address these 4 areas of digital literacy, we can certainly have equity, engagement, and really transform. So my call to action to you is this, as I finish up: initiate and support ongoing professional learning. Offer authentic online learning and hardware to all your staff and students. Rethink that game-based learning, and support equity in girls who game. And always know mentors are welcome. We're always looking for women to help us in this endeavor. So digital literacy, really important. We know that 2020 has been tough, but we're going for 2021 strong. Thank you very much, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the conference. Take care, everyone.
Katina, thank you so much for your time today, and